We are not going after what we really want. We're settling for what we think we can have. And I really think what I want people to know is take the time to step back and ask yourself, what do I really want? Not what do I think I can have, but what do I really want?
My name is Paul Harvey, and this is Life, Passion and Business. We're about helping you explore, finding your passion for life and the work that you do. But it's so much more than that. It's about finding clues to the big life questions. What does it mean to be successful? What is the meaning of life? If you're looking for more, then join me on this journey where together we will discover through interviews, tools and tips how to live life full of meaning, passion and purpose. Welcome to the program. Today's guest is Dove Gordon, and he is the Alchemist entrepreneur. He has a system that helps his clients find simplicity on the other side of complexity. Dove is a marketing man, so I had to be very careful not to get too geeked out on the subject, as I often do when I meet fellow professionals. But first, I want to touch on last week's podcast and the shortcast all about money. Clearly, this is a massive subject for everybody because I have had lots of downloads of the podcast, more than any other. It has been very interesting to see the reaction. If you are looking at the Money Mastery Project, stop this podcast and go to the website lifepassionandbusiness.com. The link to the program is on the podcast with Laura. You have a few hours left to get in on the project. The doors will be closing shortly. Remember, this is the only opportunity that you will get to work directly with Laura Powner on your money story, so you need to take action now. Right, that said, back to Dove. Now, he has been in marketing for over 20 years, and in the beginning, he struggled to develop a system that worked for him. Now, Dove reached out to me to explain his system, and I was intrigued by it. You see, he could see that there were millions and millions of consultants and coaches and wonderful people who are really good at what they do, but they struggle to find consistent leads or business. They were not charismatic guru-type self-promoters. Now, Dove and his team, they had taken an agnostic approach to help build strong strategic foundations. These are things that can be applied to build a simple client getting system. It's all based around 3 questions, and the simplicity of it is quite mind-boggling. We experienced a few connection issues during the podcast and lost some of the audio at the very end, just the bit where Dove and I were signing off. It doesn't detract from the conversation in any way, so I hope you enjoy this conversation with the Alchemist entrepreneur, that is Dove Gordon. Welcome to Life, Passion and Business. I am delighted today to have a guest on the line with me who reached out to me. And while it happens, I have to say I spend most of my time reaching out to people I want to speak to. But Dove Gordon reached out to me because he was intrigued by the podcast he had listened to. And it's so lovely to have that kind of conversation, that kind of connection. So Dove Gordon is the Alchemist entrepreneur. And I think that is worth exploring. So Dove, welcome to the show, and please tell me more about what the alchemist in you is doing.
Well, thanks for having me, Paul. I reached out to you, as I was just telling you, because I stumbled across your podcast as I was looking for somebody who turns out you'd had it as a guest, and I was listening to some of your recent episodes, and I enjoyed your inquiring way of going about having these conversations, and that's what led me to reach out, and I'm glad we're talking. So you asked about the Alchemist entrepreneur, what that means. You know, what we do is we help consultants and experts and small firms get clients consistently. So what does it mean to me? I read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho many years ago, as did many tens of millions of other people.
Yeah, read that book.
Yeah. I think that I probably noticed some things or came away with some things that other people didn't notice or didn't see it in the same way. I started reading the book thinking that my mind, the picture in my mind of the alchemists of old was these grungy old men who are hunched over a frying pan on a over a campfire, dropping in this and that and trying to turn lead into gold. And but what I came away with from the book, realizing that the idea really is this: like, what were they thinking? Were they thinking they could just magically turn lead into gold? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm not an expert. Every now and then I get an email from somebody who's like a real expert in alchemy or whatever that means, and they don't like the fact that I'm using the term because I'm not in their circles. Anyway, so to me though, it's like at first you just think that, well, maybe they have these ideas. If I just try this and try that, who knows what will happen? But then I came to realize that in all likelihood, they probably believe that if they could somehow get to the underlying structure of the lead, then they can turn it into something more valuable, into gold. And that insight came to me from reading Paulo Coelho's book. I'm not quite sure how. But to me, that's really what business and life is all about. It's about, if I can, most of us are skidding across the surface of life in most areas. There's a play years ago in New York. I know when I grew up there, something about blown sideways through life. That's how so many people feel, and we're running from thing to thing, not going deep enough. And I came to understand that you really need to look at things and ask, okay, if I can get to the underlying structure of this situation, I can leverage it and turn it into something much more valuable. Now, with all the modern technology, as far as I know, we still cannot. We still can't turn lead into gold. I'm quite sure about that.
We probably can with a big enough reactor. You could probably get there, but it takes me about the size of the sun, wouldn't it?
I have no idea. All right. So, but still, like we can learn the lesson, and as business owners or entrepreneurs or really whatever a person is doing, there are always going to be a smaller number of factors in our situation, in our business, in the opportunities or the challenges in front of us, that if we can learn to leverage those factors, those forces, it takes us where we want to go. You get to the point where you could be walking down the street and picking up dollar bills where other people just see leaves or trash, or they're just not seeing it because they're not looking for it.
Well, there's a famous saying in the UK, which is like, where there's muck, there's brass.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've all seen all sorts of possibilities about turning things that are, if you can get enough of something, you can actually make something valuable out of it. And I guess in terms of, you think of bees, they go collecting flower to flower to flower, picking out pollen and nectar, and they come back and make honey. They're making gold in a way, aren't they?
Yeah, I lost your audio for about, I don't know, half a minute.
Oh dear. Okay. I said, you think of bees, they go out collecting from all sorts of flowers, bringing pollen and nectar back, and they bring it back to the nest and they turn it into honey. Mm-hmm. And that's the same kind of process, isn't it? They are collecting from the wider collective to concentrate something down. And I guess,
yeah, without any knowledge of exactly how that works, that's really what we're all doing. We're all looking. We're all looking to create something that's more valuable from something that's less valuable.
Yeah, I guess we are.
And but our automatic reaction in many cases is to feel dragoon, to feel being pulled this way and that way. And for most of us, I think it takes a conscious effort to step back and say, okay, what are the few things here that really make a difference, and why? And how can I leverage that to turn this all into something much more valuable?
So, okay, it's clear that's what you do. You obviously create value out of stuff. You do this in your business. You're looking to help people find the value in their business. Is that what you're doing?
Well, what we're really about, like I said, is we help consultants get clients consistently. So that's really what we're all about. The thing is that most of what's out there is just lots of tactical advice. You got to do this. You got to do podcasting, you got to do Facebook ads, and you got to do SEO, and you got to be doing public speaking and networking and LinkedIn and Facebook groups. And Instagram and all that. So there's a heavy focus on tactics. And the question that I asked was a little bit different. I think I asked myself, I said, well, look, I've been around here long enough. The first 7, 8 years of my business, I was just getting my teeth kicked in, all the time. It was a real, just really trying to find my way, understand what I was, what I was selling to who and how and all that.
So what made the difference to you?
Probably lots of things, but let me just finish the first answer,
Okay.
if I can remember what it was now.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I think it was, we were asking like what, I lost
Well,
my
you were
train of
saying for
thought.
the first 8 years, you were floundering around, not actually
Oh,
getting an
that's right, right,
answer,
right. It was
and
about,
that's why I asked what made the
right.
difference.
Yeah, right, right. The overwhelming, most of the advice, if you're an expert, a consultant, if you have a small business, if you've got a firm, and you wake up in the morning and you say, "Look, I'm really good at what I do. How do I get clients?" And you go and type that into Google or whoever, you're going to get endless answers, and everybody says this, that, the other thing. It's mostly tactical advice for the most part. Do this, do that, the other thing, and after the result of that for most people is you feel really overwhelmed. You feel like you've got to do way more than you possibly can, and they feel like they're being pulled in many directions. And they hit a wall, bounce off, go try something else, and the process repeats. Make some progress, but they never really change, never really experience a real transformation, a real breakthrough. And I asked myself, well, from my own experience and my own observation of myself and other people, I see that Facebook ads, LinkedIn, whatever the tactic, webinars, it could work. Sometimes it works and sometimes it fails. So it's not like this is the way to do it or that is the way to do it. What is the commonality? Why does it work when it works and why does it fail when it fails? And as I started thinking about that and getting to the root of it, like going beneath the surface, right? As long as we think, oh, it's about podcast or about Facebook ad or about webinars or about this or that, we're getting across the surface. And when something happens to work, we might think we're smart, but we're really being unlucky. And then when things stop working, our confidence is crushed. But when we more deeply understand what's beneath the surface, why does it work when it works, then we have some real power. Because when you understand the thinking behind it, when you understand the principles behind something, below something, you get to the underlying structure of it, then you're in a situation where you can leverage it and turn it into something more valuable. And I can give you a little more of that if you'd like.
Can you give me an example of how you mean this? Because I mean, it's like, what do you mean by an underlying structure?
Yeah. So when it comes to marketing or sales, so I mean, you're a marketing expert as well, I believe, right? So there's a lot of advice about you got to build a marketing funnel, and that's true. You ask most people, why do you need a marketing funnel? Or what's the purpose of your marketing funnel? Because anytime you're going to build a system, your system needs to have a purpose, right? So you always need to know, what's the purpose of the system? What's the purpose of the process? So if you think, what's the purpose of my marketing funnel, my sales funnel? Most people will tell you something along these lines. The purpose of your funnel is to fill your pipeline. It's to get leads. It's to close deals. It's to make money. And all that is true, but none of that helps you know what to do next. So I was thinking about this many years ago, and I realized that that's an oversimplified answer. And it leads people to thinking, yeah, okay, so I got to do more. I got to do this. I got to do that. And what happens is we start off thinking that, okay, I'm really good at whatever I'm good at. We get some clients maybe through our network and so on. And then we start to build the business, and sooner or later we hit complexity. So we start off with oversimplified, and pretty rapidly at some point we're going to get bogged down in the complexity of things. And that's where most people are. But if you push through long enough and far enough, you get to simplicity on the far side of complexity. And that's where I like to operate. Simplicity on the far side of complexity. And that's why I was thinking about, what is the real purpose of a marketing funnel? And it occurred to me that the real purpose of a marketing funnel is to answer the number one question on your prospect's mind at just the right time. Now, I'll explain what that means. In order for your ideal client to go from total stranger to happily paying you for whatever it is that you're selling, they're only going to ever ask 3 questions. And your job, the job of your marketing funnel, is to help them answer yes, yes, and yes. Yes to question 1, because if their brain answers yes to question one, then they think of question two. They don't even think about question two until they've answered question one. And the same thing from question two to question three. So what are those questions? I'll tell you. The first question is, should I pay attention? Is it interesting? Okay, imagine you and I were walking, we're at some convention, some big conference, and we're walking past the exhibitors' booths. And we're looking, a lot of interesting things, but one of them catches our attention and our interest, not the same. And then we're heading through, forward, and then we'd say, hey, let's go over there and have a look. And we change our plans. We start heading in that direction because our brains, there was something in the messaging that we saw that made us think, yeah, that's interesting. Let's go have a look. And then when we get there, we suddenly start to ask ourselves a second question, which is, okay, you got me interested, but can I trust you? Are you for real? Who are you? What are you all about? And the second job of the marketing and selling system at that point is to lead your ideal client to answer, yeah, this is interesting. And yes, I can trust you. You seem to know your stuff and you actually seem to care about me, not just trying to sell me something. And that leads them to the third and the final question, which is what you recommend right for me? Is what you recommend right for me? Mm-hmm. And if you can successfully lead them to conclude, yes, that what you recommend is right for me, then congratulations, you have a new client. So now that requires more explanation. It's simplicity on the far side of complexity. When you tell people that the purpose of your marketing funnel, this marketing system you're building is to fill your pipeline, is to get leads, we nod as if we know, and then we get busy, but we don't understand. And that's why we're skidding across the surface largely. But when you explain to people that, and that's also why they feel so overwhelmed, but when you say a little bit of a deeper explanation, you say, well, the purpose of your marketing funnel, actually, it's to help your ideal client answer yes to the only question on their mind at the right time. And there are three of them. It requires more explanation, but that's simplicity on the far side of complexity, because now I know what to do. I need one thing that I need to put in place that leads my ideal client to answer yes, what this guy's talking about is interesting. And then I need one thing to put into place that leads my ideal client to answer, yes, I do see I can trust him. He really seems to know his stuff. He really seems to care, not just looking to sell me something. And then I need to put one thing in place to lead them to conclude, and wow, blow me down, as Popeye would say. Yes, this does seem to be the right thing. What you recommend does seem to be right for me. How do I get started? And that applies whether those same three questions, I believe, are happening, going through our minds, whether it's somebody approaching a vending machine, on a subway platform, thinking about buying, right? We go through it just very rapidly, or if it's a big purchase of expensive, an airplane or a helicopter, where there could be many people involved, and it could be a multi-year decision-making process. And it's certainly what's happening for potential consultants, people who are looking to hire a consultant or a coach or an expert. So to me, that's an example, and I'll stop in a moment. That's an example of getting below the surface, understanding what's really going on. And that's what I mean by alchemy. Yeah. Because if we can operate at that level,
you're clearly on subject, because I can hear it in your voice, and you've obviously explained this very well. So thank you for that explanation.
Thank you.
And I can see how you mean by alchemy of it. I have a similar kind of vein on it. I kind of look at it as someone's core story, and resonance between people with core stories. Mm-hmm. Same thing again. It's like you reach out to someone who has a similar story to you. You have an automatic bond in a way.
Yeah.
So Dove, what is it that inspires you, or what are you passionate about in this journey?
Well, let's see. What I really love is helping people who are good at what they do to look. The kinds of people. Well, let me take another step back. Right, I'm not the natural charismatic guru type, and so I'm really good at what I do, and I have been for many years. I've gotten much better over the years, that's for sure. But I always had a certain talent for what I wanted to do, and I had a certain natural ability, but I've worked on it and refined it. However, I struggle to get clients. Getting clients did not come easily to me. I'm not a natural born marketer. I'm not a natural born salesperson, and I really had to learn that. As I mentioned earlier, the first 7 or maybe 8 years of my business were a real struggle. So I, I followed these people's advice. I've spent lots of money to get help, and I don't regret any of it. I mean, spending it was I learned from every single person who I invested with. Um, but the thing is that I came to realize that there are really two paths there, and I came to see it as there's the path of the charismatic guru and the path of mastery. And they're both legitimate ways of thriving and building a successful consulting or coaching business. The charismatic guru, those are the ones that we see. They're very visible. They're all over the place. They're doing things in a big way, and they've got that charisma, and it has a strong energy, and it just draws people to them. And it's totally legitimate. I have no criticism of that, as long as it's if someone is screwing people, then it's not the personality per se.
That is the trouble with the charismatic. That's the trouble with the charismatic guru. There's quite a lot of charlatans out there.
Well, I'm not going to. We'll take it one by one. All right, that's my attitude. However, for everyone who's doing really well, I think there's a million who are struggling on the wrong path. There's so many people who are so good at what they do. And they look around, they say, I'm really good at this. How come the other person who's not as good, doesn't care as much, is doing so much better? And I think it's because there's another path, and we don't even know that it exists. We've got to back off the path, stop struggling on the path of the charismatic guru, and get onto the path of mastery. And to me, the path of mastery is where you're building a simple, repeatable marketing and selling system built on top of those three questions that I laid out before. See, the problem with, if we're looking to create a consistent flow of clients and we turn to the charismatic guru type, they can say, well, do what I did, do this, that, and that, and that. And we can follow what they did. But the one thing that they can never kind of transfer is that strong personality. So we have to come to understand if that's who we are, and there's nothing wrong if that's who we are, it is who we are. Well, what are my advantages? What are my assets? Right? How can I build on that? And, for one, I'm not necessarily looking to build a big multi-7-figure, 8-figure business. I'm not even interested in that. So in a certain sense, that's an advantage, because it's just not what drives me, and it's not what drives most of my clients. We do have some clients running multi-7-figure businesses. That's totally fine. It's not the number so much as there's something else to it. But understanding, like I've explained those three questions to people who are doing millions of dollars and teaching marketing and sales to others. And they said, wow, you just described what I've been doing really well, what I've been teaching for years, but I just never really saw it that clearly. And that's okay. They didn't need to, because they didn't have to. They were doing fine without it. The trouble is that a lot of people who are trying to learn from them do need to understand it. And that's where I see is like, that's what I love. Like, I really love when the light bulb goes on, when people come to realize and they hear what I just laid out and other ideas like it. And suddenly they realize, like I got an email last week from somebody who's on a webinar I did. I was like, wow, like now I know why it's been such a struggle for the last whatever number of years, he said. It's been such a struggle because I've been trying to do, like, I've been skidding across the surface. So I really love, I'm passionate about that. And I'm also, I also get passionate about continuously improving our systems, for ourselves and clients, with clients, because, I used to have an illusion, and I still sometimes fall for it, that, there's a finish line I'm aiming for. Like, oh, if I just get to that point, then everything's going to fall into place. Then we'll be fine. And that is probably one of the worst delusions that we human beings fall for.
That's the goal setting mindset, isn't it? I'll get the goal and life will be amazing. And it's like, oh, I've got the goal now and it ain't changed.
Well, yeah, I know you've kind of been sorting through that. I heard some of your recent episodes, right? So I know you're kind of sorting through that. We can talk about that if you want. I don't know. I see it a little bit differently, but I think I know what you're talking about. But I think, see, the point that I was making is I think that a lot of us, we're not living each day and loving the game of being in the game.
Yeah.
right? And maybe this is what you were
Well,
addressing.
that's the point.
Maybe
Yeah,
we're
the
saying
goal,
the same thing.
the
Yeah,
goal is a useful lamppost or a useful place to point to head in that
yeah,
direction of. But it's the journey to get there where the pleasure has to be found. Because once you get to the goal, you're just going to push it out again to find another goal. So,
exactly.
and you say it's about the pleasure of actually doing everything that we do for the just sheer pleasure of doing it.
Yeah, that's right. We have to learn to live each day. Live each day and make the most of today.
Mm,
Be my best today,
mm.
and that has to be our purpose almost. Like I'm not saying that's everything, because we do want to head somewhere. I think that there's truth to that as well. Um, but give up this idea that when I arrive at point X, then I won't have to fight anymore. I won't have to struggle anymore. I won't have to worry anymore, because none of that's true. The only thing that really is true is that there'll always be some kind of struggle and so on, but or worry if we choose. But we can choose not to worry right now. We
Mm.
can choose to make something less of a struggle right now, right? I'm not saying there's no struggle. I think that the main challenges that I think we all face are with ourselves.
Well, as some people say, the best thing that you can do for success or anything is to get out your own way. Um,
Easier said than done.
well, of course it is. But if you look at, I mean, most of the businesses that I come across that are struggling, a lot of the reasons they're struggling is this the owner that makes them struggle. And I am exactly the same. The reason my success is limited by my capacity to see myself successful.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
what is your success model? 'Cause clearly, it's not a traditional success model. Because
What do you mean by that?
you're not looking for a 6-figure business, so or whatever, or a 7-figure
Oh,
business. So what is your success model for you?
I mean, look, what I'm looking for is high six, low seven, and a small team. I have a small team. We're doing nicely. We're getting closer and closer to the goal, um, and that we're working with great clients. In a certain type of way, and in a way that really makes a difference to them, and they're fun. There's so that's what I'm looking for, because that will give me. I mean, I think, right? That gives me the freedom to create and to contribute in the way that I feel I'm uniquely qualified to do. Um, and it gives me the income that I want for my family and for the things that are important to us for now and the future.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, is that what you were asking about?
Well, I mean, success model when I grew up was, and I've mentioned this many times, was the kind of do well, study hard, get a good job, marry, buy a house, have a car, and retire at a certain point, and life is made. That was the success model that we were all sold. It's like the American dream is another success model that everyone's sold, but from many respects, that success model is somewhat broken. And so I think we all having to go and find our own success models for ourselves.
So in what way is it broken?
Well, because for the majority of people, by the time they've actually got married, they're not happy. Some people are actually, as someone, they're looking for the next relationship before they're in the middle of that one, or retirement comes and it's like not the kind of retirement they're expecting. There's all sorts of things that don't quite pan out to the model that they were promised. It's like study
Okay.
hard, you'll get a good job. Well, that's particularly irrelevant these days. Study hard, end up with a lot of debt, and you might get a
Hmm.
job to pay it off if you're lucky.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, so then if that's what you mean, there's a few ways I could think about tackling that, and none will be absolute, but I think that there are three things that we need to keep in mind all the time. And number one is where we want to end up. I do think that we have to have some vision for where we want to end up. It doesn't mean we have to have an exact, crystal clear picture. I don't think, because it'll evolve as we move forward, move towards it. But we have to have some idea as to what's the ultimate outcome we're looking for. So if somebody does want to retire with a certain amount of security, or a certain amount of money in the bank, or a certain amount, and what will that money give them, right? Understanding that as well, not just the money amount, because that's not sufficient usually. Um, and so that you have to have a strong reason, I think. So number one is understanding kind of where you're headed, and I don't even mean like ahead 20 years, 30 years. I could even be like 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. If I want to get to a point where my business looks a certain way, it's 12 months from now. The next question is, how do I need to be as a person to naturally cause that level of business?
What's a nice
To
question?
naturally cause that rate. So how do I need to be as a person? And now I'm watching the movie of my business in a year, and I'm watching myself and how I am functioning naturally in that picture. And the reason I say that is because if you were to take the current version of me and stick it into that future movie, it would be a really bad movie, because obviously it's like taking somebody from the 50s and sticking them into, actually, let's do it the other way around. It's like taking somebody from 2019 and putting them in a movie in the 1950s without changing anything, right? Right? There were no smartphones then, and why is he on a smartphone, or whatever. It just doesn't fit. It's incongruous. So if you take the me of today and stick me into that future picture of my business, it's incongruous. I cannot cause, the way I am today will only cause what I am naturally causing today.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I need to be as a person to naturally cause that future picture? And then the next question is, what is the next small step in front of me towards that direction? And identify the next small step towards that outcome. And then I have to take that next step the way the future version of me would take the step. Because now I'm bringing that future version of me to today, enabling me to start to become that way and naturally cause what I really want. So to me, that's the challenge. It's always a striving for something greater. I'm not necessarily saying bigger. I'm not necessarily saying richer. I'm saying greater. And then having a vision for how does that greater version of me cause the greater result? And then let me be that way right now, today, with the next baby step.
Yeah, it's good, actually. Yeah, I like that sense of it, because as you say, like, we stepping forward, we have to be different. Otherwise, you're always going to get what you always get. Is that what was that Einstein, the Einstein quote? The tomorrow's problems won't be solved by the same thinking that created them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Or something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. I bastardized the quote. I know. I can't work out what I said, actually.
It was something like that. Right. We all know what you meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was, Zig Ziglar said, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got.
Yeah,
right? But like, we're taking it a level deeper, I think, because it's like it's how are you being as a person, which is not just what you do, but it's the energy that you're bringing to what you do. It's the thinking that you're bringing to what you do, all of which affects, it's two people can do the same thing. One is bringing an energy of excitement and aliveness and confidence, and the other one is bringing an energy of dispassion and kind of giving up. And they can do the same thing. It'll be a very different result.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much about how are you being as a person, and to start being that way now, today.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's harder. That it's not so easy. It's not so hard either.
So
right? It's just that we get caught up in these patterns.
We came to this from your success model, and I'm kind of like going, okay, so what is your success model then? Is it this sense of achievement, goal setting, or just kind of a sense of being where you are? But to be successful is to be enjoying the moment. Is that where we are?
I think that to be successful, you have to you have to have enough money to serve what you want. Like, I'm not going to say you can live on the street, and I've got a wife and kids, and that certainly would not be successful in any way. It's also not what I want, so we're safe on that too. But I do think that look, you can have a bad day, you can have a bad week, you can have a bad year, but if you're learning from it and you're moving forward, then that's successful. If you're not learning from it and moving backwards, then that's you're failing. So I don't know. I don't know if that's qualifies as a success model or not. But when you're asking me the question, that's what comes to mind.
If it works for you, though, that's the most important thing. It's like we can only have a model that works for us, can't we?
That's how I think about it. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, and I'm really wanting to meet someone because I haven't met someone yet whose success model is ultimate domination and wealth. I really would like to have that conversation with someone.
Well, there's they probably wouldn't want to have a conversation with you or me.
No, I don't think they would actually.
Because they probably wouldn't see it as another stepping stone to where they want to go.
No, probably not. But I would be open to the conversation. I'd really like to be someone that has like, well, okay, try and explain to me how getting more and more and more and more helps. But anyway.
I see. I don't think anybody really sees it that way. There are people who seem to be driven by. Apparently, and I have not studied this in depth, but I've come across it briefly. There's a personality type that leans towards totalitarian. Like I forgot, 12% or 13% of people tend to have more of the totalitarian tendencies where they like to control others.
Well, right? Gary Vaynerchuk has this desire to own a football team, and he's talking about billions to get there.
Yeah.
And that's his target. That's his big launch target. And I'm going, okay. Buy a smaller team. You could have just as much fun.
Yeah.
But owning the Jets or whatever it is, or something it is. And owning that team, of course, is a status symbol.
Well, I certainly can't talk for him. I've heard that. I don't follow him closely, so I've heard that. But it's a status symbol. But I also think it's a gimmick. It gives him something to talk about.
Yeah, you're right. It could just be a marketing tool. It could be a marketing tool, couldn't it? I'm going to buy that company.
And it's a goal that he may or may not ever reach. But the fact is that it's something that he can always talk about forever, and it makes him rather unique because. How many people are willing to get out there and publicly share their big, bold vision like that, which they may fail at, and I think that on its own is something that people admire.
Yeah, actually, so that's not a bad idea. Actually, what would big, bold vision would I be prepared to share? That's an interesting one, isn't it? That's something to be thinking about.
Now, on the other hand, like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Right. Now, he's also he is a billionaire.
Yeah.
But he's clearly not driven by the money. But neither is Donald Trump. Now, how can I say that? I mean, it's the opening line of his book, The Art of the Deal. I don't do it for the money. Now, a lot of people who would not have argued with him, before he started running for president, and are driven by hate won't like that, and they'll read into his words, but I'm not that. It's not my personality. I don't think he's a saint. I don't think he's a perfect person. I also don't think he's the evil that most people seem to make him out to be. But he sees it as an art form. What he was doing, the businesses that he was building, the ones that worked, the ones that didn't work, right? The whole bluster and the gold and so on. It's a performance and it's an art form, and that's what he said from the beginning. Negotiation is an art form. I don't do it for the money. I don't remember word for word, but that was the opening of his book. Mm. To me, that's what it's about. It's about becoming a better artist.
Mm. Yeah. That's a nice way of looking at it, actually, becoming a better artist. So how are you becoming a better artist? What do you do outside of your business? What passions do you have there?
Well, I've got a family with 6 kids. And that keeps me pretty busy outside.
I'm sure you haven't got a lot of nice time out to do anything else other than that.
Yeah, we've got from getting close to almost 18 down to 6.5. So that keeps us rather busy. And
sports clubs and all the things and taxi and taxi services that you have to provide. Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, and every kid needs some time and attention, and that's something else that's important to me. Like I'm not looking to, I want to spend time with the kids, and I want to spend time with the kids when they're young.
Yes,
I don't want to have them move out of the house and then I'm coming after them when they're busy and have their kids and don't have time. Yeah. I want a relationship now, and it's like most things, it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
it requires sacrifice.
It does require some effort, doesn't it? I only went for one, so I've got the advantage over you. And he's an amazing 16-year-old, and he said to me the other day, "You're one of my best friends," which I thought was quite nice to hear.
Well, that is very nice.
Yeah, I have to say, it did bring tears to the eyes. I blubbed, absolutely. But there we are.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I'm at the point of the conversation where
You can still adopt a few.
no, I'm very happy with the one, thank you.
All right.
I'm at the point of the conversation where I hand it over to you in terms of, but you have spoke very freely, so there may not be anything else to say. But the question is like, what is it that you would like to say given an open microphone? Well, what is the one thing you want people to know about you, or that people need to know? What's the question I didn't ask you?
Okay, about me or just in general? I mean,
Yeah, well,
I don't know. People don't need to know much about me. It's not about me.
This is the open question. It's the question that you get to say.
I think
what you want to be asked.
Okay, I think that we make a very common thinking mistake. I see this in myself. I see it in clients. I see it in others. And it also ties into the discussion you've been having on the various podcast episodes about goals and so on. As individuals and as communities, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we often mix up what and how. We are not going after what we really want. We're settling for what we think we can have. And I really think what I want people to know is take the time to step back and ask yourself, what do I really want? Not what do I think I can have, but what do I really want? We knew how to do that as kids. It's beaten out of us. I'm not the first person to say this, but we just what and how, right? You ask an adult, what do you want? And they don't tell you what they want. They tell you what they think they can have, because it's like a bit of it's building on what they already have, and it seems reasonable. It seems like, well, because I have 100, I should be able to get to 110. Well, what do you want? I want 1 million, or I want whatever. Okay, but I don't know how. So they're not even putting their mind to it. And that's the difference. This is why, I'll kind of maybe tie it all together. To me, the alchemist entrepreneur is a combination of the athlete and the artist and the entrepreneur. You add those up, it becomes the alchemist entrepreneur. That's what it means to me. So, for example, the athlete. To me, the athlete is somebody, well, let's start with the artist. The artist is somebody who's not trying to solve a problem per se, but the artist conceives of a vision of something and then creates it. Why? Because once it's created, whether it's a piece of music or a painting or a sculpture or whatever, or a garden that's well sculpted and cared for, it brings something beautiful to the world, right? So it's not necessarily to solve a problem, it's to create something. The artist is about creating, and the artist gets that vision and then sets out to create it. The athlete conceives of a level of performance and figures out, how can I continuously raise the bar for myself, raise the standard of how I am performing every single day. And then the entrepreneur is looking around their community, looking at the world around them and saying, how can I solve a problem? How can I create a result that enriches people's lives? And when you bring those three things together, that creates what I think is the alchemist entrepreneur, because it's a combination of going after what you really want, channeling your energies to solve a real problem for people, to create a real result for people, approaching it as the artist, not as like going after what you think you know how to do, not settling for what you think you can have, but going after what you really want. And then being willing to build a business around it, turn it into a product or service and so on. And then as the athlete, raise the bar for yourself consistently. It might be a little easier to say, okay, I'm going to do 1,000 jump shots or whatever you do over a period of, during practice sessions, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little harder as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, to sit down and say, okay, this is, how am I going to practice? We have to come up with simple disciplines and then stick to them. We need to come up with simple processes, simple plans, and then implement them and continuously improve them. Mm-hmm. And this is what I would just challenge everybody. The same challenge I give myself. Some days I do well at it and some days I slip. And that is, what do I really want? How do I need to be as that person to fit into that picture, to naturally cause it? And then what's the next small step? And how can I take it as that person, as that version of myself? So,
wow, that's a nice little phrase. I've got that one noted down. So putting that question back at you, what is it that you want, Dove?
What is it that I want?
Mm.
Um, I want I want to be drawing towards me the kind of people that I really can help,
Yeah.
and those are people who love what they do, but they know they could articulate their message better. They know they could. They're not waking up and performing at their peak on a consistent basis. They're not really working from a plan, or they get derailed. They know they need some help. They know they're capable of more. They're scared to some degree because they know that it's going to demand more of themselves. And a lot of people are just scared to invest to get the help. Why? Because again, they look at their bank account, their current situation, and they say, well, I should be able to make it on my own, or I can't afford it now. That's not the artist. That's not stepping back and saying, looking, what am I trying to create now? What tools do I need to get there? Like, again, what I find marvelous about Elon Musk is he cashed out of PayPal. They sold PayPal. I think he ended up with something in the area of $200 million. And I don't remember every detail of the story, but I'm pretty sure this is close to accurate. He then channeled or funneled all of that into SpaceX and Tesla, to the point where he couldn't pay his rent and he was on some, staying on friends' couches. Now, I don't know about you, Paul, but if I had cashed out of anything with $200 million, I absolutely would have stashed away 10 million, 50
Yeah.
million, probably at least 20 million, just in
Yeah,
case.
yeah, yeah. I think I would have had an
There's,
emergency fund, that's for sure.
there is zero chance that I would have put it all back in, to the point where I could not pay my
No.
rent.
Yeah.
Okay. Right now, that's remarkable. This is a man who is an artist. He sees what he wants and he goes after it. And he says, like, how, right, first what, and then how. To be able to wake up in the morning and pursue what you want with that type of tenacity, with that level of commitment, is truly remarkable. And I think the good news is that I don't have a dream to get us to Mars, or my dreams are much smaller. And but what I need to learn from Elon Musk is that at my own level, I need to live the way he lives. And when I ask myself, how do I need to be as a person in that picture? I need to be more of the one who goes after what I want, despite the fact that I do not know how I'm going to whatever tomorrow, how I'm going to pay for this, or find the right person for that, or whatever it is that whatever the challenge is that I am making. We have to become those who, and I'm talking to myself because you asked me, like, what do I want, right? So I'm kind of answering that, I guess. Feel free to channel me further in a certain direction if you want. But it's like I need to be more of the person who goes after what I really want, um, without
Yeah.
worrying, what tomorrow's going to be. That goes back to, live each
Yes, it
day.
does.
And I think it's like I just realized, like, you were talking about this, the kind of like a spring or spiral, right?
Yeah.
And on one of your recent episodes, you go up, 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 up. We're no matter where we are in life, I think that we're facing a lot of the same challenges. Um, it's just at a higher level, you know. So there, I would like our program to be, where demand exceeds supply. That's actually what we're going after for this year. Demand for our program exceeds our ability to supply it. With our current
So
team.
that's a good point. That's a
And
good point to interject, because this is the point where you tell me more about that program and what you're looking for, because you've kind of guided it towards this beautifully. So who are you looking for this program?
we are the people we help are generally good consultants, coaches, experts, small professional service firm
Yeah.
owners who have had some success. They get clients from here or there, but there's two main issues that get in the way. Number one, they feel like they sound like everybody else. They've probably worked on messaging for many years in many different ways,
And so
um,
what do you do
and
for them? How do you do it?
we're really good at crafting unique, compelling messages with them, not necessarily
Yeah.
for them, but with them. For example, like, just off the top of my head, we have a client who is a life coach, right? And what's more compelling? I'm a life coach, no, or what we came up with for ours. I help women who wake up each morning wondering, if I'm so successful, why am I so unhappy?
Yeah.
You could build a business on
Yeah.
that. Let me think of some others, right? Strategy consultant or leadership development consultant, right? Instead of saying, I help you get the most out of your people, or some, kind of nebulous version of that, which is what nearly all of them say. We have a client who says, I help companies solve the problems they have from that employee who's too valuable to fire, right? And we don't pick these out of the air. I don't go to the shelf and just like pull them out. It's an interactive process with our clients that helps us. And then, clients are drawn to confidence, and a big part of a consultant's confidence is their ability to talk about what they do in a way that instantly makes it clear you're not like everybody else. And that's what we really help them do. That's the first thing. And the second thing is a simple plan, like a simple, straight to the client plan. There's a lot to be said for all the different, high tech tools and so on, and that's really good for many people. We tend to do really well with people who a new client for them is worth probably $15,000 up to $150,000, for their new client. Sometimes a little bit less.
One piece of core content's enough to do that, isn't it? One piece of absolutely brilliant content, which
even not so brilliant, but just good, like compelling. It has to be compelling. Yes. And we help them develop that and then once you, what we're doing right now is called You, a Force to be Reckoned With, and it's 4 weeks. I wasn't going to go into it, but you invited me, so I'll at least mention it. You, a Force to be Reckoned With. It's just 4 weeks. And we take them in the first 2 weeks about really getting to the point where you can talk about what you do in a way that really resonates with your ideal client, and then present your ideas in a way that makes it clear that, this is, no one's ever talked to me about it quite like this. This makes a lot of sense. And then that leads, what that's doing is it's getting your attention and interest. That's question number one. It's building the trust, which is question number two. And then it leads them to want to have a conversation with you to find out, is what you recommend right for me, right? So it's those things that's like we're helping them put in place the absolute minimum that they need to get that in place. So and then boiling down to a simple system, a simple plan, because the big problem is being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If there's so many different things that I need to do, it is overwhelming. So how do we get past that?
Yeah.
The answer, I once heard it explained that overwhelm is when everything seems to be of equally importance. Like everything is a priority. Well, obviously that's not true. But when you design a simple plan or simple process that works, then what you're doing at that time of design is you're making decisions about what's more important and what's less important. And maybe we can wrap it up over here. Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So he once said, I remember heard him saying on some recording years ago, so that in order to say no to all those things on the outside, you've got to have a deeper yes burning on the inside.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a consultant or a coach or expert or firm, when it comes to getting clients, the only way you're going to say no to all the distractions so that everybody gets up and says, you got to do this and that, the overwhelm, is if you have a deeper yes burning on the inside in terms of a simple, repeatable plan that actually works. You don't need to be doing everything. You need to do one thing well. And it has to be something that you implement on a daily or several times a week, depending on your scheduled basis, so that it's leading to conversations with leads, and some of those become clients. And that's what we do. Like, we help them get that nailed in 4 weeks. And we do that by eliminating anything that's not absolutely necessary. And then some people continue working with us on our Force Multiplier program, which can go on for a while afterwards if they qualify and if it's a good fit. So that's what we do.
And they can find details at your website, which is
it's well, actually, I'm happy to give away a gift if we can, because for 5 years